So we've done so many videos on cooking from the pantry. I'm starting to get questions about whether we eat from any other sources, the freezer, the fridge, the garden, the grocery store, whatever. Well, yes, of course we do. So today we're gonna do some cooking from the freezer meals. So I need to clean out my freezers a bit. You know, that's been a problem for me. They're a little overstuffed. So we're gonna start working on getting some of the stuff out of the freezer. And I'm gonna cook with as many freezer items as I can in this video. Give it 2 or 3 meals and we'll see what we can do. Welcome to Grow and Preserve. I'm Carter and I'm so glad to have you here. All right, I'm gonna go grab some things out of the freezer. I have plenty of store-bought stuff in there. I also have some home preserved items in there, and I'm gonna try to use a good mix of those, and let's see what we can get through. Okay, so let me show you what I found. These are some chicken meatballs from Costco. Giant bag, taking up lots of room in my freezer, so we'll work on those tonight. This is some walnut pesto from August of 2022. So this came from the garden, made it during, I think, the Every Big Count challenge last summer. So it's time to get eating this. I'm going to get this defrosted. And then I have some marinated and dried roasted tomatoes from this year's garden. These things are so good. So I'm going to slice these into smaller pieces and add them to the sauce. And then we have some kind of noodles. So if you're keto, you know what these are. If you're not keto, you don't want to know what these are. You use pasta and it'll be delicious, but I'm going to use these keto miracle noodles. You're going to love how quickly this comes together. Let's get going. All right, my pan is hot. Let's add a little bit of oil. I have this crepe pan heating up beside me, not because I'm making crepes, but because I need to sort of dry cook these keto noodles. I don't know why, but trust me, it makes them taste better. I'll say my tomatoes have already defrosted. That was, I don't know, maybe 2.5 minutes. It was just absolutely nothing. So we'll get those chopped up. And my pesto is almost done defrosting. So let's get some meatballs in here. Ooh, that's pretty hot. All right, these are gonna splatter, so I'm gonna get a splatter guard out. Told ya. Okay, we'll give those a few minutes to brown up, and then we'll add everything else and the dinner will be done. All right, pesto is now defrosted as well. Let's get these chopped up. You saw me make these during the summer, these little roasted tomatoes. They freeze and defrost so well and add so much flavor to anything we're making. Oh my gosh, they're so good. All right, I have rinsed and drained this crazy pasta. Get that out here. This kind of needs to, I don't know, what do you call it, dry fry maybe? I don't know. Turn that back up. I might add a little goat cheese to this as well. That sounds awfully good to me. So goat cheese, I can't even see you. All right, so pesto, goat cheese, and roasted tomatoes. That just sounds delicious, doesn't it? I'm excited about this dinner, and it's gonna end up taking me, I don't know, 7 or 8 minutes, and it'll all be done, and everything except the goat cheese and these crazy noodles came out of the freezer. All right, I think the meatballs are ready to go. So let's add those tomatoes. Let them heat through. And I'm going to get these noodles in here. All right, the pesto. Looking pretty good. And where you can see. Okay, not looking half bad, right? Let's have some goat cheese. Oh, it smells fantastic. This is a carbon steel pan, so it's not a non-stick pan, but because it is so well seasoned, it is essentially non-stick. So I don't worry about the feta, I don't worry about the noodles. One of my favorite things to cook with. All right, that's it, we're done. Zoom you in here. How's that? It's a good looking dinner, right? 5 or 6 minutes? Nope, 7 minutes. 7 minutes it took. All right, let's get it served up. All right. So that's my dinner. I don't know if it's going to look as good on camera as it does in person, but I'm pretty excited about that. Also pretty excited that my fork is covered in goat cheese. So we'll see. All right, we're going to go eat dinner, and I'll see you on the next one. So tonight it's just going to be me for dinner. David had a late lunch with some buddies. So I'm going to have one of my favorite kale salads. I have been so into kale lately. It's grown like crazy in the garden, thankfully, but I can't remember the last time I had a lettuce salad. So anyway, I'm deep into the kale now, so that's what I'm going to have tonight. Generally, when I make a kale salad, I like to go ahead and prepare the salad early, dress it early so that the kale has a chance to kind of loosen up, soften up. Otherwise, it's a little bit tough. So I'm just going to do some oil and vinegar dressing, and then I'm going to add some of the dried cranberries that we made last week. I've really been enjoying these, and it's probably time to make some more while there are still some cranberries out there. And I'm going to add a little bit of pumpkin seeds for the crunch. All right, now let's get on to the freezer items. So back in August, during the Every Bit Counts challenge, I sous vide some chicken breasts and stuck them in the freezer. My thought was that when I buy them, obviously repackage in a vacuum sealed bag, sous vide them, and then move them in that same bag into the freezer. And so that when I want some chicken breast, it is ready to go. So it took me less than 30 minutes to defrost the chicken, and this is, oh my goodness, I've used almost all of these already, so I'll tell you about them in a second. Then I'm just going to pat dry, season, and in this case, finish cooking this one. And so if you noted on the package, this one said that I sous vide it to 155 degrees. Well, 165 degrees is the normal temperature I would go for when cooking chicken. So I did one batch at 155 and one batch at 165. And my thought was, well, let's see if when I reheat these, prepare to serve, whatever, there's a difference. Is the one that started out at 165, is it going to be overcooked and too dry? Do I prefer the 155? So what I have found is that even if I sous vide it at 165 and then cook it, sort of, brown it at least, and warm it up for the next dinner, it's not too dry at all. It's just absolutely fine. So I think I'm going to stick with 165 now, because the issue with 155 is that if I ever wanted just cold chicken, maybe to put on top of a salad or in a sandwich, I couldn't actually open this 155 package and slice it up and serve it right there, because the way I cook chicken, for me, it's not fully cooked. So what I will do is 165 from now on, but I'm definitely going to do some more chicken this way, because this has been so quick and easy. So next, we're going to go on to some roasted sweet potatoes. These were left over from Thanksgiving, and I'm just going to throw them in the pan with the chicken, and they'll take no time at all to cook. And they took no time really to defrost. It was about 15 minutes in the water with the chicken. And I think it's going to make for a very pretty salad. So I'm excited about this one. So the next day, I went rummaging around the freezer, and this is what I came up with. A package of grass-fed ground beef and a package of roasted veggies, which would be onions and peppers, I think is all that's in this batch. So this is what I decided to have for dinner tonight. But take a look at the package of the ground beef. The date on that says March of 2020. So yes, it's been floating around my freezer for almost 4 years. And if you've been with me a while, you know that that also means that it started its life in Atlanta and floated around that freezer for 16 months. And then it moved to Tennessee and has been floating around this freezer for 18 months. Good grief. I know I have freezer issues, but my goodness, that's a little bit much for me. So we're going to take care of that today. And then these veggies are left over from a barbecue that we had in July. And so they're not that old, but at the time I didn't have my new vacuum sealer, and I really didn't like my old vacuum sealer machine. So I just stuck them in a baggie, and as you can see, the baggie has torn, and there is some freezer burn, or at least crystallization on these. So we're going to go ahead and take care of those tonight. So I thought, well, what am I going to do with this 4-year-old hamburger? So I turned it into Salisbury steak, which is not something I make very often. In fact, I can't even remember the last time I made it. But anyway, so I'm not going to use a recipe. I'm just kind of throwing things in. And because we're keto, I'm not using breadcrumbs in this. You know, keto options would be maybe pork panko or coconut flour or gelatin, or, you know, there are a couple of other things. I'm not going to use any of that. I'm just going to use the egg and just be careful when I turn it over. And then really I'm just going to heat up the veggies. They're perfectly cooked. I just want to warm them up. So to start off, I really just want to brown and mostly cook these Salisbury steak patties. And then I'm going to take those off the heat and make the gravy. So for making the gravy, I'm going to use some French onion soup. And it is from 2020. So yes, the same year that the hamburger is from. So it also led a similar journey. And we're going to bring them back together today and use this. The French onion soup is really good, but I found that since we are mostly keto and we eat very little dairy, it's less satisfying than it would be if I could put a big crusty piece of bread and a whole bunch of Gruyere cheese on top. So we don't necessarily eat it as French onion soup, but I do like to use it as gravy. So I enjoy that a bit. There are several ways to turn it into a gravy, and since I'm keto, I'm just going to use a little tomato paste and some seasonings and a product called glucomannan, which some of you on keto will enjoy and others it does not sit well with them. But if you are free to eat, you know, to do a roux or a cornstarch slurry or heavy cream, or you can even just immersion blend and reduce it for a little bit. Turn it into a gravy however you normally turn anything into a gravy. So as I'm working on all this, I'm sitting here wondering if back in 2020, when I clearly had nothing to do but preserve food, if it ever would have occurred to me that I would be eating the food I was preserving in another state 3.5 years later, just standing here preparing dinner like it's any other day. So I'm pretty sure the answer to that is no. So once the gravy has come together, I'm just going to put the patties back in to warm back through and finish cooking that just a little bit. And then I'm going to use as my base for this plate here some cauliflower mash that some friends made for me for my birthday dinner a few nights ago. I'll stick up a picture of that. It was a wonderful dinner, and I have wonderful friends who made me dinner. So I'm going to use up the last of that now. If I weren't doing keto, I would use, you know, regular mashed potatoes, rice, toast, biscuits, egg noodles. Man, any of that sounds really good to me. And then finally, I had a little bit of leftover kale salad from the other night. So I'm going to add that to the plate and we're going to call it done. So that's not bad for 4-year-old food and leftovers, right? So thanks so much for being with me today, and I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.